Well, hello again, Simon Raybould from Presentation Genius here, and in this 5 minutes or so, perhaps a bit less video, we're going to talk about a really powerful tool for developing and maintaining your long-term self-confidence. Obviously, it's particularly for presenters, but it applies to anybody else as well. So I am betting you've got this scenario in your head where you can see there's time along the bottom and there's your self-confidence up the side of the graph. I'm just going to zoom in just to make it easier to work with. There we go. Okay. Now, you probably recognize this. You start the day really confident and things are going well, and then suddenly you make a mistake and your confidence takes a tumble. Now, we call that point the insult point. It doesn't have to be an insult, but that's the jargon term for it. Something goes wrong, or you make a mistake, or somebody's rude to you, or maybe, whatever. And then you spend the rest of the hour, day, week, lifetime, whatever it is, trying to restore your confidence as time goes on. Okay, now I'm pretty sure most of you will recognize that scenario. So I want to just differentiate two bits of confidence here just to make it easier to work with. First off, we have the confidence above the bottom of the curve, and that's the bits of your confidence which are susceptible to external events. Okay, so these are the bits where your confidence goes up or goes down depending upon what other people are doing and saying. And then at the bottom there's the internal confidence bit. Now with my tongue a bit in my cheek, this is the bit that stops you killing yourself when you've had a really, really bad day, because the internal confidence is the real core self-belief, self-esteem, you, really right down at the heart of you. Okay, so that's the way confidence looks. Now what most of us do when this happens, when this insult curve happens, is we try and shorten the period over which we're feeling rubbish. Fair enough, makes perfect sense. We try and move that bit of the curve from the right to the left, and we do it by giving ourselves some kind of treat. That's what we call it. Now, the reason we do that is because our self-confidence has taken a tumble because of the external event, so now we're giving ourselves another external event to make ourselves feel better. It makes sense, so if somebody's rude to you, so you buy yourself a bar of chocolate. It's kind of, but there's a limit to how many bars of chocolate you can eat well, actually there aren't, but there should be a limit to how many bars of chocolate I can eat in a week. Okay, so here's the question. Wouldn't it make more sense, instead of trying to move that curve to the right and using treats, to move that curve up and increasing the size of our internal self-confidence? Excuse me. Okay, and that added bit there is improved self-belief. That's what we're aiming for, because everything else is vulnerable to other external influences. So imagine you've given yourself a treat, but halfway through eating the Mars bar or whatever it is, or the chocolate bars are available, somebody else does something and your confidence goes down again. Well, this is just more robust. It's not vulnerable to those external bits and bobs. So here's the exercise. Grab yourself a sheet of paper and jot down 3 column headings like this. All right? From right to left, it's A, B, and C. Now, they actually stand for acts, basics, and core. But don't worry what they stand for. Just put down A, B, and C from right to left. So far, so good? Brilliant. Okay. Now, under the act column, I want you to jot down really quickly just half a dozen things that have gone right in terms of you've done them successfully. They can be trivial little things, and just go back for the last, 48 hours or whatever it is, okay? So there could be something as simple as you made porridge for breakfast without burning the house down, or you got dressed without putting your sweater on backwards and not knowing, or whatever it is, right? They can be really, really simple ones. Got those? Pause the video if you need to. That's 6 successes, 6 things that you've done right in the last 2 days, whatever it is. Okay, really as simple as you like. One of them might just be you found this video and figured out how to play it. And once you've done those, now it gets interesting. Now I know real life is more complicated, but just for the sake of this exercise, I want you to imagine that each of those acts is predicated upon one basic thing, on a perfect one-to-one mapping thing. So for each act, there is a basic skill, whatever, that underlies it. Okay, so just go back and very, very quickly now pause the table. If you pause the the video if you need to, and just fill in that. Just come across there. If you're not sure what you're doing, just wait, watch the video through, and then come back to this exercise altogether at the end. Okay, but for now, you've got 6 acts predicated upon 6 basics, and you know what's coming next, because each of those basic things doesn't spring up on its own. No. Each of those 6 basics is predicated upon, let's, for the sake of simplicity, assume 1 core. Now, I know real life more complicated than that. I get it. Okay, but just map that for now. So let me give you an example. Under the ACT column, I had a cool conversation with one of my kids the other day. They just phoned up to talk about a hobby we have in common. We're both trying to learn Spanish. And she's pretty good and I'm pretty rubbish, but we phoned up and just had a nice chat about it. That was the ACT. I had a successful chat with one of my daughters. Now, that's built upon the fact that I've got a good relationship with my daughter. So the ACT is she phoned me for a phone, just a chat. The basic is that underneath that, I've got a decent relationship with my kids. And underneath that, in the core, is this. Despite screwing up oh so many times in oh so many ways, over the years, I've been a pretty good dad. So I've inferred from the fact that my daughter phoned me up for a chat, I have been a pretty good dad. Now that doesn't mean that tomorrow when she doesn't phone up, it doesn't stop me having been a good dad. It is really as simple as that. So what you do is you go through the 6 successes, then the 6 things they're predicated upon, and then the 6 really core fundamental beliefs that sit at the bottom of that. And if you just go back to this graph, you'll see that the acts, those are the external things. Those are the things that could be good, could be bad. They happen to you just because they happen to you. The B's, they're on the borderline. But the C stuff, the really core stuff, that sits right at the bottom. That's really, really fundamental to who and what you are. And the only question that remains is how often then should you do this exercise? And I recommend there are 3 occasions you should do it. The first is when you've got that precipitous fall thing going on, right? The insult has happened and you're emotionally in free fall. The second time you should do it is when somebody you really trust tells you you're being a pillock. Because most people are fundamentally good, and the only reason that you're going to strike out and be a pillock is because you're upset, angry, afraid, scared, whatever. And the third time you do it is, well, for me it's every 6 months, but for you, who knows, it's up to you. Every 6 months, regularly 6 months or so, my diary goes ping and I have an hour set aside just so that I've got this exercise to do, because you'll find that as you do that, your A, B's and C's change. And gradually over the years, over the months even, you'll get more and more sure of more and more C-type core things. It's a really simple exercise. The first time you do it, perhaps you want to do it just for a bit of a giggle and take the sort of the mick out of yourself a little bit, but sit down for maybe half an hour, 20 minutes, quarter of an hour even, with a cup of tea or a glass of wine, whatever it is that works for you, when you're not going to be interrupted, and just do it. It's really quite tricky to be emotionally honest with yourself, but it's a hugely powerful exercise. Take care.